Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go! Annie Carnathan, beyond excited to be in the podcast studio today to one of your longtime, friends and colleagues, and a new friend of mine.
Yes, and I will say, Denise Dombach.
Yeah, we're supposed to say Denise.
Denise.
You're going to say
Nisi.
Nisi.
She's Nisi to me, but that goes back to Ship Hip Hooray.
Yep.
Shippensburg University.
Raise your hand if you graduate from Ship.
Woohoo!
Yay.
3 for 3. Yeah,
Shout out.
And Denise was a phenomenal athlete. So put that in. And Denise grew up in Lancaster. I grew up in Lancaster County in Columbia. Denise went to a high school probably 5 or 6 times larger than mine.
Wow.
McCaskey High School in
Wait, Lancaster County, is that not the number one soil for agriculture in the country, I think?
That's why it's called the Garden Spot. That is absolutely correct.
Good.
That's why there's actually a town, the Garden Spot, but the entire...
Yes, I knew the town.
Yes,
okay.
agriculture, right. So, and I think Denise's journey has been extraordinary. She's a friend that no matter how much time passes... we'll have lunch. She'll say, "I'm proud of you."
Love
I'll
that.
say, "I'm proud of
Love
her." Right? Exactly. And just a better human being, but a lot of moxie, a lot of resilience.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
But I want to intro into Denise by saying just thank you.
Yes.
You are an avid listener.
I am.
And it took a while for us to convince you that the world needed to hear your story. But I'll ask Nisi about her mom. She'll ask me about my mom. Like all the key points of a friendship are alive and well and thriving. So Denise Dombach, thank you for being on Grit and
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
We're episode 3. We've just come out of Thanksgiving weekend. This will air in December. But we're excited to have you join us and celebrate. I kind of feel like we're just hitting our stride. Do you feel that way?
Oh, just getting warmed up. Just getting warmed up.
Good stuff you guys got going on.
Good. And as a reminder, you know that this is not scripted. That's her choice, not my choice.
Yes.
So be prepared for anything.
I'm a bit of a control person. So
Yes.
This will be a challenge. But
It is very much out of your comfort zone. And for that, we're absolutely thrilled in more ways.
Unapologetic.
Like, we got you, girl. That's right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I want to...
Oh, you brought notes. This is new for you. This is new.
I want to take this intro thing seriously. If we're there. But so over the weekend, there was a deep dive in the Wall Street Journal. God bless the Wall Street Journal. And it was about the CEO of Microsoft. And his name is Satya Nadella. Okay. So here's what I want to just verbatim from the Wall Street Journal, going to source that. He writes in his book, now this is the CEO of Microsoft. One of his formative moments at Microsoft came before he was even part of the company. During the interview process, a gauntlet of engineering tests and coding scenarios. He's a coder. He's totally analytical. He's all about code. He was flummoxed by a simple question. What do you do if you see a crying baby in the street? That's an interview question. So note to self, that's a good one. That's a good one. The answer seemed obvious to him. Call 911. Now, it's a guy that grew up in the slums of India, didn't ever want to come to the United States. Here he is. You call 911. It's Captain Obvious, right? The interviewer replied, quote, "You need some empathy, man." The interviewer told him, if a baby is laying on a street crying, pick up the baby.
Yeah.
Right.
He remembered that lesson when he became a Microsoft employee. You, when I think about you, and let's face it, you're selling insurance. Whoa, who wants to pay for that? It's like paying for tires or a washing machine. You don't get to go, oh, I got this really sexy insurance policy. You are one of the most empathic people I know.
Ooh.
There's not a single
Nice.
thing you would do, and I gripe to you about insurance. And you're like, yep, understand, Annie, here are the consequences, right? Insurance is insurance. You hope you never need it. But if it happens, God forbid, and you don't have it, here are the consequences. That's all you care about, right? That's right. So I think, and you had worked at a State Farm agency, ultimately rising to having your own State Farm agency. Mm-hmm. And the really sort of complexity and the challenge of it is any small business. But a small business, it seems like it's on every corner, even as State Farm, and then throw in all the other insurance competitors. Holy smokes.
Right.
So how do you have that core essence of empathy, and how has it impacted the success of your business?
Well, you did do your research.
Wow, yeah.
Good.
So I feel that each person has their own puzzle. Like I speak with you about what's on your mind, what's of biggest concern, like what are you most concerned about? And when you share your story, it could deviate to something completely different. So you call to complain because your car insurance increased, and that might just be part of the problem today, but there might be bigger stuff that's going on. And I think just the listening, to what their story is. And it's not to me about the sale per se. It's about helping people with the gap that they have in their worlds. So whether it be insurance or whether it be financial. And sometimes it gets more frustrating when you see where their problem is and they're not willing to look there because there's something else, again, that's keeping them from seeing what their real problem is or real issue is.
That's a business vitamin to unpack that. So, because Ian normally intros and does a much more thorough job than I just did.
You did. You told a great story.
But we shook it up, and so each episode we'll ask you for a business vitamin. If someone takes one, and you know this from listening, if you take one thing away from this in 30 minutes, what can you do to immediately apply that and impact your life in a better way? And so I think that empathy.
Well, I think a business vitamin, before we get to Denise, was in your intro, which was phenomenal, is, so of course, I think as a mother, I was going to say, pick up the baby.
Sure.
I didn't, the 911 might come afterward, look for the mother, whatever.
Yeah, like, so what do you do? Stare down at this crying baby on the street and like, okay, I'm coming, and you don't go near it, you don't right?
But such a good, we could really unpack that story. Why was that his response? Is that an analytical response? Is that a male-female response? Is that is he knowingly not empathetic? But I think a reminder for all of us to work on empathy and to intentionally put that on our to-do list every single day. We have these business practices and protocols, and
right.
And certainly insurance would come under preparedness and whatnot. But on the emotional side of being in business and running a business is, I think empathy would have to be at the top of the list. And I know, Denise, in your world, because I just called my agent last week, people reach out to you in a time of, I won't say always crisis, but trouble, despair. The car broke down, a tree fell in the house.
I can't pay my premium.
Yeah. I bought my car 2 years ago, and not 24 hours in, hit a deer.
Oh.
On a brand new car on the weekend. So, I reach out, like, I needed my agent immediately. I'm crying. I'm like, what on earth am I going to do? And then, so you want to hear the empathetic responses, I've got it. You'll be okay,
Sure.
Ann. We'll take care of the car. We're going to arrange appointments. This is what you do. Here's a link. That's what we're paying for every month. Is I wanted, if I could figure it out myself, we
What do I need you for?
wouldn't need that. But the empathy, I'm just thinking of the kinds of situations you're dealing with customers every single day. If you don't show empathy, you're probably not in business very long.
Sure. I mean, today I could have somebody walk in to give me cookies or presents, and the next minute you're dealing with somebody calling to tell you that their spouse passed away unexpectedly, and what do you do with that? So it's been a journey of learning to listen
Good.
first, so that you can hear them tell their story, their perspective to what just happened, so okay, this is what your concern is. Now let me help you with this part here.
Right.
And that's probably one of the more rewarding things, when someone thanks you. Thank you so much for helping me. And that touches me more than so many other things.
Right.
I mean, you're in business obviously for reasons.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're able to help someone, it's
yeah.
And again, going back to the baby in the street, it's kind of interesting, that's what their experience was. That's what their perspective was.
Well, that's interesting too.
Because if they've never come
was that
across a
response-
crying baby,
Yeah.
like, what do I do with a crying baby? They might be the baby of the family, so they never had to deal with a crying anything.
Or even,
So-
is that what was modeled in your own life?
Exactly.
Was it more of a hands-off situation where you would reach out, to other people to meet a need
Sure.
rather than dive in?
And different cultures are different too.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's been
Yep.
an interesting piece for myself to learn. Like, I have different folks of different backgrounds, and then I will ask them about their culture. So then I'm like, I'm not going to become an expert overnight, but I'm asking you for reasons that I want to be educated on
Right.
what's important to you. And it just kind of opens up the conversation then, and the relationship. And anything in business, it's about the relationship, right?
And I think too, the layer of that, because you've been precisely that person since I met you. And so the journey to get to where you are in a capacity that solely helps people is extraordinary to me, because that's your superpower. And it takes other people time to not only sort of get there, setback, comeback. It was by accident. I mean, we've heard it all. And that's the fascinating part of each woman in business that we talk to. But I think it's equally important, Nisi, to put that same empathy into your employees. Because when I call, I'm not necessarily talking to you. And that's perfectly fine for me. I think what you do in one of the most difficult things in any business is have associates that absolutely have the exact same empathy. And I think that's extraordinary. How do you do that?
Must be a culture.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I think as a business owner, you do try to build a culture, and I feel like I question that every day. But I think the questioning also keeps you real to, like, am I doing the best? Am I creating that environment? And we all know there's challenges on a daily basis. But thank you for sharing that. You feel like there is a culture, and at least it's a positive culture. So that I preach to my folks: you're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect every time, but you want to do it with integrity. You want to say, I don't know, but I will find out and then get back to them. Or, the facts are the facts, and that's just me being that control person, right? If your premiums increase because, remember, Ann, you had that accident and we paid out X number of dollars, then you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about that. And it's the facts. And we represent a company, but we can't necessarily control what that company does in the macro level. So.
And that's interesting too, because they'll say, Nisi, I don't need to get all this stuff. I don't need this. I don't need that. So you're actually performing that culture within a much larger, constricted in a lot of ways, culture. And what I love about this, it's not a price thing.
Right.
If you get the lowest price, it may or may not be State Farm. But I know there's only one place I'm going to get You and your associates. And that's where the loyalty lies. And that's what I think, Anne, is so extraordinarily difficult to get right.
Well, especially, I imagine some people perceive insurance as purely transactional.
Sure. I mean, and it is in some age groups, the demographics. And that's, to me, that's the challenge. That's the next challenge, because there were like folks of our ages, right, are more the relationship. And I want to know that I have that physical location to go to. If something happens, I can at least go there.
Great point.
However, the younger generations are like 1-800.com or whichever. And then when they have a problem, they're on hold, or they're this or they're that. And then they quietly change, companies.
Yeah.
And our model is pretty much to say we want to build a relationship with people. Yes, we're not the cheapest. We're not going to be the most expensive, but that's why there's a Chico's and a Walmart.
Right.
Right. We all have different interests and different things that are important to us. So, and that's, you either believe that or you don't. And insurance is insurance. It's one of those necessary evils. You buy a car in Pennsylvania, you need insurance. You buy a house with a mortgage, you need insurance. So it's a matter of...
I think that as I was thinking deeper about this, and a lot of years of having insurance and different types of insurance, it does... I'm going to speak to our female listeners, especially the younger ones. It really... you need to sit down and be intentional about your preparedness in life. What... you can buy purely transactional services, of protection, whether that's, having an attorney do your will, having the right insurance set up. But something that younger women really aren't spending a lot of time thinking about, but they're going to get something with the highest deductible, so they're not worried about paying. But that might not be, as you sit down, what are possible scenarios you could find yourself in. I don't know how high the highest deductible is, but maybe you need to pay on the forefront so you can be guaranteed of a more equitable outcome, or a safer or more efficient outcome.
Sure. And a lot of times I'll just ask people a story to say, well, when you think of insurance, what do you want it to cover? Right? Well, I want to cover if I'm involved in an accident. Well, some of the coverages that people choose, people can carry the lowest limits that they're required. But then if that person that has those low limits hits you, and they only have $5,000 of property damage coverage, and you did nothing wrong, and they just rear-ended you at a stoplight, you might be covering, you might be paying for something out of your own pocket because of the not the good coverage that only $5,000 worth of coverage when you just had $20,000 worth of damage done to your car. So educating people when they have those experiences, if they're willing to sit down with you, and if they're not happy with how the claim went, then you can help them understand, like, okay, this is what this means to you. Right. So that if somebody like that hits you, do you want to be that person? And explaining what, I try to explain it in a story. I do, years ago, there was a book, Story Selling. Yeah. And it was just one of those things, like, don't tell me what they call it. Tell me what it does for me. Yeah. So
what's in it for me?
Sure.
And that's all people care about. And that brings me to the complexity of this, where my eyes start to glaze over and my head's just like, what? It's healthcare, HSA, high deductible, low deductible, prescription, optical, dental. I mean, are you kidding me?
Life insurance.
Right? Yeah. Life insurance, universal life insurance, when you were trying to tell me way back when to do that. And I was like, well, okay, what? Because, and I think you have a gift that way of just, if you know what's in it for me, you know the level to the complexity, right? I don't need to know how a landscaper going to treat the soil and put the base down. It's like, what is this going to look like and what's it going to cost? Right. So I think there is that essence of that, but it's fraught with enormous, not time waste, Sam, not wasting time.
No,
but
that's what I was saying about preparedness. These are major decisions you have to make. They're not sexy. They're not fun.
Right.
And in a time-starved day, you're thinking, well, when do I have time to sit down and even think 20 years ahead? But I know, like life insurance, figuring that out on the early end, before you have your family, before you have a lot of obligations, is so critical. And sitting with someone like you, Denise, and saying, walk me through what are unintended consequences if I get this policy?
What am I not thinking of?
Sure.
That you've experienced.
And the interesting thing now is I feel that there's a lot of people that, I don't know if they live for today more so.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
And it's like, gee, your mom has this, your dad has this, you're a product of your parents. Now we can't always assume that, but then do you see that? I mean, there's such a thing as insurability, and the whole piece with COVID has really changed because we don't know necessarily like long-term effects of some of the illnesses that we get. And it just is, it gets to be, to figure out at what level do I meet you so that you have, like, I understand what you're thinking.
Right.
Overwhelming, the patience in that. And so we talk often about, if we didn't do this, what would we do? And remember, we met in college.
Yeah.
And my life, through college
yeah,
since
well.
1987 is clearly drastically changed.
Sure.
And now, if you ask me now what the most important thing is, it's my son, right? And my husband, if I go before he does, right? Are they the primary people taken care of? But are you in the right business at this point? When you look back at that journey, do you go, oh, yeah, but, right? Is there this? Because to me, right, and this is my lens, you are made for this. But is there a point where you go, and you're able to vacation more now? I mean, we talk about having a staff that allows you maybe to take more time away. And that's, is this, when we get to be our age and we look back, is there anything we wish we had done differently? Is there anything we wish we had tried? Are you content in what you've built?
Oh, wow, that's loaded. Well, and being goal oriented, you always wonder, well, if I would have done this, and I mean, I'm very happy with what it is that I'm doing, and with the opportunities that are there, and then just looking at what it looks like for the next generation or the next group of folks. I mean, I was a police officer before, which is again
That was my tidbit.
oh,
Go
sorry.
for it, girl.
Go ahead.
I forgot about that.
You tell my
Finish
story.
up. Yeah, I was just gonna say, wow, how did you go from there? I saw you graduated from the police academy, and a police officer for 2 years, was it, or 3 years?
2.5 years. So I did that
To sales.
Well, but you could also look to helping people.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and when you say that was the, like, where you feel that I'm suited for, thank you. Because there are days that I think in any of us, we kind of question, like, oh, did I do this at the right time? Did I change too early? Did I transition? So yeah, I do feel that I'm at the right place. And I think the next step is now educating people, figuring out that nugget of the next generation to be able to help them understand the perspective of insurance that they need to know, so that they're not caught like, oh my gosh,
And
I should have done this.
And protection, right.
Right. So, I mean, it goes anywhere from what we refer to property and casualty, to the life insurance, to the disability insurance, to the investments. And, more people have said, I wish I would have done this when I was younger, from a lot of things, the things that are, I'll say, part of your financial triangle. So,
And you're such a smart cookie in so many ways. Financially, you just have this sort of palette of aptitude that just all comes into this. I completely forgot about the cop in the main streets of York, right?
I was doing my research and I was like, oh, wow.
Was it, remind me if it was the cop into working for someone else's State Farm and then into your own, or was it State Farm cop your own, right? What was that?
I was a cop first.
Right, okay.
And that was from 88 to mid 90. And what I did there was I was being trained I was patrol, but then I was being trained for the child abuse, child exploitation.
Oh, wow.
Pre-internet.
Oh, wow.
So 1990 for those listening was my lifetime. Was your
Yeah.
lifetime ago?
Yes.
And I try to look at things 5 years out, no matter what I do. Like,
Right,
what's this going to look
right.
like in 5 years? And fortunately, I made the choice at that point in time, and when I made the decision not to look back.
Yeah, good.
Because you don't want to question yourself. So move forward with what you're doing, and
So don't look back. Move forward. Is there any insight you would tell your younger self? Or we have a fair amount of young female listeners as they're trying to figure out what their career, like map that, vision board that, whatever. Is there anything you would do differently? What would you tell your younger Denise?
Younger Denise. I like my path. I don't know that you can say you love your path because you don't
Yeah.
know what's left to do.
Right.
But
That's
I
a
feel
great
like
point.
Make your decision, but don't do it too hastily, and then evaluate to say, and have maybe a core group of folks that you ask to be your advisors.
Yes, we've talked about that board of advisors.
And whether you like their answer, Ann's one that will tell me like straight and nail you through the eyes.
We do
right?
know that. We do.
Right?
We're,
There's-
episode 3, our listeners are well aware of that.
There's not any holding back, but
No.
that's also,
But it's with peace and love.
Right,
I
right.
love you, right? So
Right.
that's my way of trying. But you'll do the same to me. You'll get to try this, right?
And
So
you call people out on things, but they need to understand, and have that core group of friends and colleagues that will call you out. That was some of the things that I've always said, even when I was making my transition from policing, there was a group of people, I said, if you ever see me change, and when I saw myself change, I'm like, I don't need to ask anybody.
Yeah.
So that's where, and just always be open to learning and pivoting. With the internet changed a lot for
Right.
all of us. And I know even from my insurance days, there was a day that we were just writing things on a piece of paper. Now we have artificial intelligence. Like and then you have the chat bot or whatever.
We still like to write things on paper.
Yeah. But those are the things that it
With
just is
pencils.
Yeah.
difficult to grasp. And we've been moving through this, so we have to make adjustments.
Yeah, we
so
do.
be willing to adjust.
Yeah.
No
Good.
different you play sports. You gotta if this defense isn't working, you got to try something else on the other team, and the other team is your customer.
Right.
and so the things for me is to trust me, because I got to live with me 24/7. Lord help me, and trust the people on my board of advisors,
Yeah.
and understand that they're doing it from a place of love, and a lot of times concern. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge part of being young, is to understand yourself
Right.
and who you're really taking to heart, and
who you
what
can
their
trust.
intentions are, who you can trust.
Right.
And I agree with you. The rear view on your car is for a reason. The windshield's much larger because we're driving ahead.
Right.
Very, very few times are we backing up.
Right. I think surround yourself, and it sounds like you did, with people you trust who will tell you the truth. And take that, I like to think of speak the truth in love, that those who that they have your best interests at heart.
Right.
Because that saves us from making sometimes egregious mistakes. If someone comes alongside, and I have that with my siblings, like, hey, this isn't going to turn out well. I feel like this is not a good decision,
Right.
sibling A, B, or C is going to make. But you have to be, want that level of honesty. And I do think it allows us to grow tremendously.
And I think more so now, I understand that people aren't going to necessarily do what I'm talking about through my lens, through my experience, and you want as many people that you love and trust to weigh in on that. I say it's my quilt, right? There's lots of different squares that make up the quilt of life, and I just appreciate them asking, and I appreciate that I'm able to have input either way, right? Because it's like, I'm like, even with my son, it's not like I told you so. Like, what's the point in that, right? He knows, right? And life is about choices. Make it, to your point, and go for it, right? And adjust along the way. So just like that, Denise Dombach, we're done.
Wow.
We're finished.
Wow.
That we told you, and we always have a podcast before the podcast. So that's
Yes.
in our.
You are delightful. You're
conference
such
room.
a great lady, and your journey is so extraordinary for any woman in business that needs to understand soft skills, but at the same time, you're crazy smart too. And so I think in a competitive vertical like that, you need people who are looking out for you.
Denise, where can
you.
people find you? Like, is LinkedIn a good spot? If maybe they want to learn more about you, your business, maybe they want to start their own insurance agency, or want to interview you about what does, being an insurance agent look like?
Yeah, sure. So I do have a LinkedIn profile, but also my domain is denisedombach.com. So you can
good.
find me there, or email denise@denisedombach.com. And, or I'm local here in Mechanicsburg. So
Good.
reach out to you guys.
Good. On the West Shore. Thank you,
On the
my
West Shore.
friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
I
for
know
sharing
this
your time
was
with us.
like you were the reluctant podcast guest, but getting out of your comfort zone is what we all need to
Thank you.
hear. So thank
so
you.
much for
Good.
asking and inviting me. I
Merry
appreciate it.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you guys as well.
Make it a high gear day. Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.